Alrighty. What's going on, my fellow psychos? How you doing? Yeah, well, listen, people are crazy about snow. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's like the things people do for love, the things people do for snow, I guess. So, it is what it is. But I just came on. I really came on to say I really don't have anything else to add from what I had last night. I don't. I just wanted to clear the air. And it says relax in the title. Um, I mean, let's go over it again. Let's go over it again. What we know. What do we know? All right. So we're waiting for this system to clear out of the way first. Right, our current system to clear out of the way. And by the way, folks are going to get some decent back end snow out of this too across um, central Mass, Western Mass. New Hampshire is going to get New Hampshire and Maine would get a pivoting band tonight. That could produce some really heavy snowfall. So that's what tonight's. They could get some 1 to 3 inch per hour rates tonight across New Hampshire and Maine, but that's not why you all came in here. First, we do have to get the storm out of the way, though. First, um, remember we've talked about before. Every storm has an impact on the last one. So, imagine every storm has like the Newton's law, equal opposite reaction. Imagine kind of like that. Snow in Springfield. Oh boy, get some snow there. That's nice. But every storm has a reaction. Every system has a reaction to the next one. So this will be connected to this, which will be connected to this. It's just how it works. Um, Everything's connected in the atmosphere. Nothing happens because of coincidence. Um, we play this out. Remember what we talked about last night. We're gonna have this upper level low come in across from Canada. It's going to be ejected. Some Arctic air from the polar vortex, and that's going to drop in our cold air in place out ahead of next week's storm system whenever it comes on the 23rd or 24th. So you see the upper level low drop in, right? Now we're filtering in, right? We got filtering cold air, plenty of cold air in place for this one. So cold air is not going to be an issue. If you rain, it's because of track. It's not going to be because of the cold air wasn't in place. So there's plenty of things that can still change with this. So we're not even close to done yet. And you're going hands and knees into every single model run when we are 7 days out. So yeah, I mean you gotta remember there's so many changes that are gonna happen. I mean, anybody want to give us 168 divided by 7? It's 24. Yeah, 20 to 25 more model runs still to come in, guys. If you guys decide to change every single model run, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. I mean, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I mean, I can keep drawing these lines to represent every single model run that's going to happen. I mean, I can keep going. Not even close. That's how many model runs are left. What's up, John? Plenty. There's so many model runs that are left to change. It's going to happen. Now, I don't think we've grown close enough to be able to make a conclusion on whether or not it's going to be a cutter or whether it's not. I mean, actually, I really don't think it's going to be a full-on cutter, to be honest. I think regardless, listen, maybe something crazy could change, but I don't think it's good. I would lean against full-on cutter. just because of the confluence in place. It's going to be hard to get a full on cutter with confluence from this upper level low that's pushing an Arctic air in place to begin with. So I would lean against, an upper level low track that, goes across, here. I would lean against that. I think if you put a bullet to my head, I would lean anywhere an upper level low track from here to here. I would say this is anywhere from there to there. So remember, upper level low track is not the same as surface low track. Level low track, you got to right. You got to be a little bit more just northwest of the surface low many times. And if this stacks, though, so this could be a system where the upper level low and the surface level low stack. If it's as dynamic as we think it's going to be potentially, so that will be something to watch. Well, those are more specific details, but remember, you have 500 millibars. Right, you have all the way up, right, 0. We'll slide over. Right, you have 0, 250, 500, 700, 850 surface, right, and 925 in between that as well. If we stack from 500 down to the surface, well, that's typically what you would see with a really dynamic system. So, and that's what some of these runs have been stacking. Stacking those different low pressures at different levels of the atmosphere, and that's how you create a really strong dynamic storm. Remember, this is not a classic Miller A, I would say, but you can see the interaction we have here. From our energy, from our vorticity, coming off the Southwest Pacific. We have a big old vort that's dropping in here. So this isn't really it's not a Miller B two-part phase, but it's also not just a classic single piece, cross-country trek. It's not one of those. So it's not a perfect Miller A, but nor is it. It's not a Miller B either. And I wouldn't quite call it a combo. I would say it's a versatile Miller A is not a scientific way of putting it, but that's how I would kind of describe it. And remember the keys, right? We have to watch the depthness of how deep our trough gets. That will be key, right? The depth of our trough, or are we going to be more broad with our trough? It wouldn't be that broad. I highly doubt we would get something to slide off Florida, but I'm just trying to show you different depths to the trough that can happen. That'll be also key, right? Because notice also to the confluence that gets left behind. From our upper level low is going to directly interact with this system. So this is going to directly interact with this system, and this works as basically like a TPV, polar vortex, and works now cold air. So the system works as a manufactured polar vortex kind of, and this is our supply of cold air. Remember I said that is going to be what's supplying our cold air in the first place, and it's directly interacting with our system. You can see how it kind of winds into our system almost in wheels into the backside of the trough, and that almost is it's a little Miller B-ish in a sense if you look at it from that perspective. That's why I say it's not a classic Miller A, because look what happens. This piece pinwheels into the back of the trough here. So I wouldn't call this just a classic Miller A. Like I said, there's different solutions you're going to keep seeing, and not everyone is going to be like the last one in. We're going to continue to see changes. I don't know why this is so hard for people to grasp all of a sudden. It's been like this for years now. Models have not changed in that sense, where they keep changing. Right? We take a look at the Euro. Models change. I don't know what to tell you. The difference here is the place, the upper level low, right? So if the more progressive we are with this, the more progressive we are with this piece here, this confluence piece, this upper level low here, the more progressive we are with this piece, the more we're going to allow this to amp up, and the more space we're going to give this to amplify and be able to work inland farther. But the farther back, we reserve this piece right here. We reserve this farther back. We're going to press on this more, and we're going to force it to delay its time. We're going to delay how soon it wants to amplify. And that's going to force our track more off the coast more. So that's why I keep going back to that piece. And then that's why I suggest you don't try to invest yourself into every single model run, because it's just a waste of time. It is and it isn't. I'll check every 6 hours, because it intrigues me, the system. I want to stay on top of all the different changes. I try to follow. If I can figure out the pieces that are changing early in the model runs, then identify how those changes take place. Like, I want to figure out exactly for 160 hours out. I want to see, all right, well, when we're 100 hours out, what are the changes that are different from last run? Try to figure out those changes, so then as we get closer, the more we get closer, and if we do have an event to track, and I can look at those pieces as we get closer. And I've been looking at those changes now for days. It makes it much easier for me to identify how the run is going to play out much earlier, and it just gives me a better understanding of the system. So that's why I like to look at, every 6 hours. But you don't see me tweeting, changing my thoughts drastically because of the model runs and how they change every 6 hours. 'Cause that's not how you forecast, especially a week out. People have their thoughts. They're trying to use climatology. They're trying to use their instincts to what they think is going to happen. That's great, and that's their forecast. That's what they think this far out. But I'm telling you, um, they're not making their forecast because the models show a specific scenario right now, and they're latching onto that. And I think a lot of you are confusing that. That people are making their forecast based on what the models are showing now, and that's not how it works. Um, it's not quite how it works. I get it. You all want snow. We all want snow, of course, but when trying to make the best forecast, you have to remove. Excuse me. You have to remove that bias out of you, and you have to figure out, okay, well, how do we get snow, and what are the odds of this happening? And right now, I don't have a lot of good odds to be able to provide you with why one scenario is more likely than the other. Other than, I don't think this is going to be a full-on cutter. That's really the only thing I have right now based on my forecaster's intuition, which isn't as bright as others who have much more experience than me and have seen many more different systems over the years. So I'm just using what I have. We only have so many models to look at. It feels like a lot sometimes, and sometimes it feels like not enough. Or I think I phrased that right. Sometimes it feels like too many, or sometimes it feels like too little. So there's different. There's plenty of different model runs that are going to happen. Take a look at the ensembles. The ensembles are, I think, where to really key this far out. I see this. If I see a trough that is neutral, almost negative over the Alabama-Georgia border. When I see that as an ensemble, 6.5, 7 days out, what am I going to complain about? I mean, there's nothing for me to complain about here. That is a really good look. I mean, consistent. I mean, look how consistent this is. It's been like this for 2 days now. You have a consistent look on the ensembles of this right here. I mean, not perfect, but I mean, yeah, that's a great look. That's a great look. As someone who has looked at tons of these stuff before, I can promise you, when you're a week out, that's a really good look. It's a really good look. Doesn't guarantee anything. Can't guarantee you anything. right? So then nothing is ever guaranteed. And I wouldn't look on how specific the ensemble means are there, because if we look even closer, we look at all the different members. We'll slide into look at the spread. I mean, we go anywhere from that's our current spread, people. That's our spread. 6.5, 7 days out. It's a large spread. I mean, it's a large spread for 7 days out. And that's also what you should expect 7 days out. That's exactly my point. It's really not a large spread for 7 days out. But since we are 7 days out, there is it feels like a large spread because that's what's supposed to happen. That's the point. That's why I shouldn't be latching on to every single model run, because maybe one run it's similar to this path of an ensemble member, and then the next one it's this ensemble member, right? So I would, and the ensemble mean members are offshore the Delmarva. That's the mean right there. It's not a great mean because there's so many different clusters. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, you all want to try to prove Bernie wrong. Believe me, I want to. I want to prove Bernie. I think Bernie wants to prove himself wrong. I think he would rather see snow, of course, but um, he's just using what he thinks. It is what it is. You look at 18Z EPS. Excuse me, sir. You're not going to give me 12Z? Nothing massive, really. It's a little bit more reserved. And again, that's 6 days out. So you're not really doing anything by just following the run to run shifts on ensemble means. I mean, the threat's still there. It's not vanishing. It's not over Montana. It's not. No, it's not in like Newfoundland. It's. I mean, I don't know what you expect. To be honest, when we're 6.5, 7 days out. I mean, we went over important pieces. I will say that Canadian was a little bit too suspicious on how exactly it was to its previous run. Like like it's like typically you'd be like, oh, okay, well it's being consistent. That's a good sign for the model to be correct. That's suspiciously too close to the last run for as far out as we are with this volatile of a system. I mean, that just makes me question how much more new data it took in and the changes. I mean, that's suspiciously close. I will say when I was looking at the Canadian 0Z. So I don't I really don't have a lot of stock invested in the Canadian right now, as most most forecasters don't usually put all their marbles on the Canadian for a reason. But I mean, you really want to look at all the changes. I mean, when I look at this, I mean, I see consistency. People see crazy changes, and I see consistency because I can't tell you the amount of drastic changes I've seen 6, 7 days out. So when I see this, or these are drastic. These are drastic for if you live here instead of like here. So you're talking about like 75, 50-mile differences because you're looking at the rain snow line and the snowfall maps instead of looking at the 500 evolution. It's just a lot of consistency. That's all I see, to be honest. That looks like a system that needs to be tracked for the eastern half of the U.S. That's just what I see. So I really wouldn't get yourselves too worked up. Listen, if it doesn't come together for where you live, it wasn't meant to be. You know why it wasn't meant to be? Because the atmosphere is in a fixed state. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's in a fixed state. No, okay. It's all nature is fixed. When you play a video game and you turn the settings to fixed, this is how the atmosphere works. Okay, so you're not going to change it. Whatever is happening is already going to happen. There's nothing you can do to change it. So you can think about all the models changing whatsoever, but really the solutions already happened, and we're just waiting for it. It's a fixed timeline. The weather is always has been, always will be. So you can do whatever you want to imagine of how it's going to change. It's not going to change. Where the models are going to change, the pattern itself is not going to change. Maybe if you scream really loud, Asha, maybe if you scream really loud, while you're screaming, can you scream to Bill Russell? So you can get some life in the Celtics too, please. I don't want to have to watch that again. I mean, it is. I mean, it is. If anybody could go into the future, they'd just be telling us what's exactly going to happen. You can't, right? You can't set off a nuke and change our snowstorm. You can't. It's not how it works. The atmosphere is fixed. Whether people like to accept that or not, because of how the models change what they think is going to happen. Um, that's just how you perceive it. How you perceive it is not going to change what's going to happen. What do we need to ride the coast and hit central New Jersey? Well, we talked about it a little bit. You're going to need, the more we hold back this piece right here, this upper level low, this little lobe, connected lobe from the polar vortex, the more we reserve this back, the more confidence we're going to have in place by the time our trough starts to dip. So, and the more we slide our trough to the east, that changes the track of our upper level low. And we're trying to get, if you live in Jersey, you're trying to get an upper level low track about 150 miles east of the current. If we were looking at this verbatim, there's really not even a consolidated upper level low yet. So I mean, I really wouldn't invest anything into the P-type maps because the GFS is trying to suggest we have a two-part 1,300-mile wide snowstorm, which is just preposterous. But so if I was looking at this, I would look at an upper level low track on this. I would just say that's kind of where you would get an upper level low track. Or maybe, let's see, if we're looking at this verbatim. All right, it takes another second for it to consolidate. So an upper level low track, right over New York City in this specific run. It's not about which model is right. I've gone over this. The models are tools. It's not about which model is right, because not one model is going to be right at the end of the day. They're all going to be wrong. The question is, how wrong will each model be? It's not which model is going to be right. You guys have it. I know that's pretty much how you've maybe only seen it your whole life, or You just haven't been given the perspective, but it's more about trying to figure out where the models are going to be wrong instead of trying to figure which model is going to be right. So the more you focus on which model is doing the best instead of focusing on where each model is wrong, um, it's just going to make you go crazy, start crazy. But to answer your question, um, you would want an upper level low track just to the east of Jersey, and then you need the changes I talked about to occur. And when I say changes from the run that it showed a week out. This is not what's going to happen. Even if we had a similar trough setup, this is not exactly going to happen. None of what you see now is what's exactly going to be what's going to happen. I mean, I told you before. We don't really have. I can't figure out. Your backyard or New York City or specific cities. We don't have enough to figure out which cities are going to be impacted the most. I will say one specific detail I can give you about this kind of setup. This is the kind of setup that if you are going to go to full on mix and rain, um, you could probably get a front end thump out ahead of this first because we're going to have the cold air in place and it's a really deep trough. So until the upper level low passes your latitude and you warm up at either the mid levels or the surface, this is the kind of system that you could get a front end thump regardless um, if you're in a favorable track to be all snow or not. So I will say that that's one specific detail we could look at. But again, we don't even know where exactly that's going to happen yet because, as I said, I think we're really, in terms of upper level low track, I think we're anywhere from here to here at this point. So, a lot of questions that need to be answered and that aren't going to be answered within the next like 12 to 24 hours as well, which I think you all think that everything that comes out is the next closest answer, which is technically true, but not really. A back end thump, back end snow. I mean, theoretically, it's the kind of system where you could get back end snow where it's a dynamic enough. You wrap around, scroll feature, where you wrap around cold air, and whatever preset is left, you sitting in the cold air. Usually, it doesn't tend to be the best for snow accumulation unless you're in a pivoting band. That's a little bit different. Unless you're in a pivoting snow band, deformation band, that's a little bit different. But typically, you don't have as much moisture. You're lacking a little bit of moisture on back end snow. Like for example, this is back end snow tonight, and this is, about 15 miles west of where I live. And you can see that's actually it's not bad actually. We're pretty well saturated from 600 down. But notice in the upper levels, even into the mid levels, some too, we're a bit dry from around 650 to all the way up in the atmosphere compared to, we look at Maine, you can see how well saturated they are throughout the levels of the atmosphere. That's why Maine's kind of fun tonight. That's why I had them 14, 20 plus or whatever. My man, I think I've answered, like, you've asked a different question and you've asked the same question in different ways. We don't. You're looking for the answers um, for a test the teacher hasn't handed out yet. We don't have the answers yet. I get it. You want snow, but we don't have the answers yet. If we had the answers, there'd be a lot of people talking about it. But if we want to pinpoint something that's key, this is going to be the biggest influence right here. This upper level low right here that's got all of our Arctic air. Basically a PV lobe. This piece right here is going to be the key. How reserved back are we to make this a little bit more progressive initially? The more progressive we make our system initially, the more time we're going to allow the trough to set out further to the east. And at that point, we can get people closer to the coast more involved. But if we do the opposite and we get this out of the way sooner, this is going to back up higher. So this is pressing down on our system, pressing down on our height fields more. So what's going to happen is this is going to push back up more. It's going to press less on our system, and it's going to give it more room to breathe and amplify and allow it to push further up the interior. I believe Billy's doing a live as well. I recommend if you're staying up, I would hop in his live too. Bernie is not a fraud weather guy. Bernie is a very insightful guy who understands the atmosphere. And like all forecasters, some make right, some make wrong predictions. Bernie's I would say he's a pretty bold meteorologist. He's willing to put his forecast against the wall and see how it stands. Right, he's putting his knowledge, he's putting his forecaster's intuition right on the bulletin board as soon as you walk in the doors of the school and allowing everybody to see it. He's got the platform, like I just explained it kind of in that analogy. He's got the platform to do it, and he wants everybody to see. Well, listen, people are wrong. People are wrong in life. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what you do in your job, but um, I doubt. I doubt you've lived a perfect life either. Nobody lives a perfect life. I'm not going to get this perfect. I can't. Every snow map I make, I do something wrong. Um, and I got someone who wasn't happy. I guess thought I give myself too much credit. I guess I don't know who, but um, I just try to appreciate when I don't completely mess up. Anytime a forecaster doesn't completely mess up and they're using forecasters' intuition and not the models, it's always a good feeling, and that your forecast came together. I've been lucky. I've been able to have some pretty good forecasts over the past couple winters, and I had too many big busts when it comes to snowfall maps. And typically, and that just builds more confidence to use forecasters' intuition instead of trying to look at what the models are doing. So when I say I know a little bit what I'm talking about, it's true. I do. I know a little bit. I don't know everything, but I know enough. I know enough that I can help guide some of you with your questions and lead you in the right direction. Not out of being egotistical, but just knowing. And people that complain about Bernie and are probably just because he's talking about something where you don't get snow. If he was all over, you all would love Bernie right now if he was saying he thought this was going to be an East Coast special. But since he's not, you don't like him right now. He's not telling you what you want. And if he's wrong, then he's wrong. But I mean, again, like take a look. I mean, this is cold air. Typically, when we're below 540, that's when we look at for a freezing line at 500. I mean, we're pulling in 510 millibars here. It's some deep Arctic air we're gonna pull in. Right, take a look. Take a look at the Arctic air we got in place. Regardless of what happened, we got Arctic air coming in after. Regardless, it's going to be a cold Christmas no matter where you live across the eastern half of the United States. And then we'll see after that. The pattern could have another opportunity after next week. We'll see. But it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold, right? And notice the cold air comes in out ahead, right? See the cold air gets out ahead of our system. And then we play from there. I mean, he says very rare that I-95 is going to snow at the beginning of the trek. Is he wrong? Is I-95 has I-95 ever been the sweet spot for a winter? Think about that for a second. I-95 tends to have a lot of mixing problems, even for events. Even for the events they do really well in, a lot of times they're not even a sweet spot. So I get what he's saying about climatology. I disagree with that to an extent because we're in late December and cold air isn't going to be the problem with this system. That's kind of where I disagree with him just a little bit, but I mean, what do I know? Cold air is coming in regardless. So for people that love the cold, that's not going to be something you're going to have to worry about. It's going to get cold, people. It's going to get cold. That is something you're not going to have to worry about. We'll talk about a cold Christmas. Canadians got people in the teens on Christmas Day. So some people, Canadian doesn't even have some people getting out of the negatives. Let's not do that, please, YouTube. Please. No, don't start the trend. Please not do that. Please, we don't need to hate. There's enough hate already for people in this planet. We do plenty of that already. There's no need to crap on people that don't deserve it, but it's not necessary. Climatology means it's December, right? There's peak time frames for certain events, right? Climatology, when it comes to hurricane season, August and September and early October, late August to early October is your um, peak for climatological hurricane season. Now imagine winter, right? Typically think of January, February as um, as your peak for when it comes to climatology in the winter. So typically, January, February is the best times for to get the most snow, which is true. Which is true. But climatology doesn't mean you can't get an I-95 snowstorm in late December. Depends on the setup. Do we have UCMET? I do not know about early January. If I did, to be honest, I've been so invested in the systems that we've been tracking for the last week now. I haven't even looked really too far along. Usually, I'm looking far out ahead when it's pretty quiet. It's not quiet right now, so um, I don't have lot to a lot to look at in the long range when I got stuff to look at in the short range. Yeah, I mean, UCMET's got the inland scenario, right? is what it is. Ucommit hasn't had so many updates in so long though, so the Ucommit has become useless to an extent. That's not just saying that because um, it's not showing East Coast influence. I'm saying that it's just YouTube chat. Please stop. Told you it's not necessary. There's plenty of people who get crapped on every day already. It's not necessary. Please, not necessary. Can appreciate me without crapping on someone else. I mean, it's not just I-95. Climatologically, January and February is favorable, the most favorable for winter across the country. Basically, it's not just I-95. It's just odds increase even more across January and February. It's on average the coldest, um, coldest time of the year, and the months on average they see the most snow. I mean, honestly, when I see this on the GFS. Honestly, reminds me a little bit of the Blizzard of 22 last year. A little bit. It's different. This is a one part. This is a more Miller A, and last year's was more Miller B-ish. But in terms of the depth of the trough and the sharpness to it as well, um, that kind of it's almost the same thing. It reminds me a little bit of that one. Just when I'm looking at the trough. It's not the same system, not the same setup, but just reminds me a little bit of it. If you want, I did a reanalysis on that one this fall. If you want to go back and look at it, it is on my YouTube. One of the live streams we did. We did like 3 or 4 different live analysis or snow analysis streams of past storms. So if you're ever curious on that, some of the big ones we did 2015, we did early February 2021, we did Blizzard of 2022 from last year. I think we did, yeah, so we did like 3 or 4 different ones. So if you are ever curious, they are there. They are there. Um, yeah, do we have any more questions? Any more questions? I just it seemed Twitter was going stir crazy, and I don't know why people can't grasp that models change, but it is what it is when you're so far out. I don't know why people expect models to be the same. Models change. Models change people. They do not stay the same. The weather is going to stay the same though. It's fixed. Like I said, it's already been put into place. Nothing you can do to change it. And the models are going to change as much as they can with the physics they have in them to do the best they can with the data and numbers they have ingested in them, combined with the physics that they have the model runs. I don't know. Well, when you get such a dynamic system around Christmas, I mean, I can understand it. Um, I thought we had made some progress. I don't know why it's we go through the same stuff every year. That's why I put that one tweet out today, the gif of it's if it's Groundhog Day again. It's the same thing every single storm. People just change their, the same people that are complaining about the ones changing their thoughts are also the same people that are overanalyzing and getting too hyped up over every run. So kind of being hypocrites. Seriously, puppy, come on, lie down. Dog is making his appearance. There we go. I don't know about. I mean, I don't know. People just want snow. People just want snow. I can't blame them, but um, you gotta you gotta separate you loving snow from trying to figure out the forecast. And I don't know. Some people just struggle to separate those two. That's why a lot of people make bias snowfall maps. 'Cause they can't separate their love from weather, their love from snow with the forecast itself. Well, I mean, love makes you do crazy things, doesn't it, John? Some people on here love snow the same way. They would love their wife or husband. The way you love your spouse, the same way people love snow. I mean, I know I do. I mean, for me, that's true. I'm able to separate that with the forecast. So I never stay winning. Mother Nature always wins. Mother Nature is always the winner. We got any more questions, people? We got any more questions? I think Billy is going to go live tonight as well. So for YouTube folks, he's on Twitter. His tag is NSFWWX. I'm pretty sure he's going to be going live tonight for the Euro as well. So I'll be in there. He'll answer your questions after he goes over his breakdown and stuff. He'll probably provide more insight than I will. He's better than this than I am. Um, and he'll provide some good insight for you guys. Yeah, has it gotten tougher? Uh, you mean like numbers wise, John? You mean like numbers wise? I mean, I feel like we had a pretty good amount of people in here tonight. We had like 30 people in here, 7 days out. Think about it. We haven't really had a system where we've been, 5, 6 days out, and then all the way up through the event. It verifies for everyone to get the big time snowstorm. Those are typically the ones where you get everybody popping, come in because they want the information. But I mean, I think we had like 30 people in here for me, has it gotten tougher to start the stream? Dude, again, YouTube guys, you don't got to separate between people. You can just appreciate. You can just appreciate everyone without trying to separate. You're going to put everything into rankings. Not everything in life is a ranking. You can just appreciate different things in life. That's what society likes. Who's the best? What's the best? What's the best restaurant? Who's the best in this sport? That's so many people care about that, but you gotta appreciate. You can appreciate different people. Like you can. you can appreciate Damian Lillard without trying to put him down because you think someone else is higher than them. Just appreciate different people and what they are. Struggling. It will. I don't have. I had a problem because of the streaming support I use. I use Restream, so I get the free version of Restream, so I can put out 720 quality, can put out HD 720 quality, and I can stream to both YouTube and Twitter simultaneously. In the platform, I checked like the Down Detector website, and apparently it was apparently there were some outages reported that night. It wasn't just me. So I guess there was something going on with Restream. And Billy, I think, uses something directly connected to Twitter. I forget. I don't know. I don't know what he uses for a stream. But my favorite basketball player. I mean, Jason Tatum. Come on, baby. Jason Tatum, MVP. Jason Tatum. Not tonight, but I'm a Celtics fan, so I love all my Celtics players. I'm not sure what problem though Billy had last night with his stream, or the night before, whenever it was. Billy's also has a complex. He has a really high end streaming setup too. So he has a lot of things going into it. Oh no, bro, we're not going to. I know you ain't say that. You're a big Philly guy. Well, Embiid's been playing great lately. But yeah, we got any more questions before I hop off here? I think we covered basically everything we did last night in just repeat fashion. All right. All right. For anybody new that came in through Twitter or YouTube, um, I appreciate you coming here. It's not about you like driving the stream, to be honest with me. Um, you know, I don't really mention that, although I did just mention that, but I mentioned that for the point of, you just come in to learn more about the weather or just listen to my thoughts. If you already know a lot about the weather, it's great. That's great. I just try to be a voice of right, not to waver. I try to be stay in the middle, because that's where you do your best thinking without getting too emotional one way or the other. You can just evaluate things for what they are and not what you want them to be. Just tricky to do with weather, but especially when you want a certain kind of weather, it's hard not to. But I appreciate everyone that does. Subscribe, follow me, whatever you do. I just appreciate the interactions I have. I don't take them for granted. There's a lot of people on here that don't have 5,000 followers and do better stuff than I do. So um, it's not about the followers, to be honest, really, for me. It's just me learning as much as I can about the atmosphere and me doing what I can to provide what I know to other people or those teenagers. I remember when I was a teenager learning some of this stuff. I didn't exactly have. Um, I didn't come to Twitter till pretty late, so I remember not having all that. Um, I don't know if I was like 13 and on Twitter, which I wasn't, at least not weather Twitter. But I'm sure I would have been immature and all that good stuff too. But so I try to do my best to help the people that need it, and there's plenty of people on Twitter that don't need help and just are just curious for different thoughts. So I just try to do the best I can to make the best forecast and try to do my best to learn the most I can about the atmosphere. I don't really have any hidden narratives on here. It's pretty straightforward of what I do, why I do what I do. So hopefully you appreciate that. We'll continue to stream throughout the week. This is clearly going to be a dynamic system that's going to be impacting somewhere in the eastern half of the United States. So we'll try to put the pieces together the best we can. Again, nothing is guaranteed. You are not guaranteed anything. Just because the models show something now, that does not mean that's what's going to happen. Remember, weather is fixed. It is fixed. There's nothing you can do to change it. There's nothing models can do to change it. What's going to happen is going to happen. So just accept whatever's going to happen. Don't try to accept the model for being correct. That's not going to get you anywhere. Latching onto a model that's 7 days out doesn't get you anywhere. So just try to stay even for people that don't want to ride the wave, or maybe you think you want to ride the wave. And you think models are the end all be all. They're not. You got to stay in the middle. You got to stay even, and you got to try to take out your bias. I know it's tricky. I know it's difficult, but you have to be able to separate what you think is going to happen and what you want to happen. They're two pretty different things. And when you combine those two, that makes you emotional, and it makes you see see things maybe a way that you shouldn't. Think about it. What would you do for the people you love? That doesn't mean it's necessarily morally right, but what would you do for the people you love? What are you willing to do? So if you think about it from that perspective, that's a little deeper than it should be when it comes to the weather, but that is true for some people. Um, when you're in motion, it can kind of distort. At least in the short term, it can distort how you see things. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Appreciate everyone that came in. Hop in Billy's stream after this, NSFWX. Really good, insightful. I think he should be going live soon within the next 20 minutes, if not maybe already. But again, we'll be doing streams throughout the week. So I appreciate, again, I'll say it again, appreciate everyone that came in. I hope you all have a good night.